If you're over 40 and you've ever tried to learn a new language, you've probably thought something like this. Why is this so hard for me now? I used to pick up things faster when I was younger. Maybe you've opened a language app, tried memorizing vocabulary lists, listened to podcasts, even watched videos, but after a few weeks, you felt stuck, frustrated, or just too slow. You might have started thinking, maybe my brain just can't handle this anymore. Let me tell you, you're not alone. This is one of the most common struggles for adults trying to learn a new language after 40. And here's the key. The problem isn't that you're too old or that your brain has gotten worse. The real issue is that your brain now works differently, and most language learning methods are designed for younger brains. You see, when you were a child or teenager, your brain was a sponge. It could absorb new sounds, words, and grammar without much conscious effort. But as you age, your brain prioritizes long-term memory over short-term memory. This means the old repetition drills and flashcards that worked in school no longer give you the same results. And here's the part most people never tell you. You're actually at an advantage because adult brains are incredibly good at making connections, building context, and creating meaning, but only if you use the right strategy. In this video, I'm going to break down why learning a language after 40 feels so hard, the hidden reason most people fail, and most importantly, the memory hack that completely changed the game for me. This is not about working harder. It's about working smarter, using your brain's natural strengths instead of fighting against them. So if you've been feeling frustrated, discouraged, or even a little embarrassed about your progress, stay with me because you're going to walk away from this video with new hope, a clear explanation, and a practical strategy you can apply today. And make sure you watch all the way to the end, because I'll also share the resource I personally used to amplify my memory and focus, making everything even easier. Ready? Let's dive into why language learning after 40 feels so hard, and why it doesn't have to stay that way. So why does learning a new language after 40 feel so much harder? Here's the surprising truth. It's not because your brain is worse or broken. It's because it's been rewired for efficiency, not raw absorption. Let me explain. When you're young, especially as a child or teenager, your brain is wide open to new input. Scientists call this the critical period. It's when your brain soaks up new sounds, grammar patterns, and words without much effort because it's wired to learn fast and adapt. But after about age 25, your brain shifts focus. It stops trying to absorb everything and instead becomes more selective, focusing on what it already knows, building expertise, and reinforcing long-term memory. This is why you're great at remembering life experiences, big lessons, or things related to your work. But suddenly, memorizing dozens of new vocabulary words in a foreign language feels exhausting and frustrating. But here's the good news. This shift is not a weakness. It's a strength. Adult brains are incredibly good at connecting ideas, making sense of patterns, and storing meaningful, emotionally relevant information. You just need to change the strategy you're using. The problem is most language programs are designed using methods that work better for younger learners, like repetition drills, isolated flashcards, or rote memorization. For adults, this approach often leads to rapid burnout and the feeling that you're hitting a wall. Have you ever repeated a word over and over, only to completely blank when you needed it in conversation? That's because your brain didn't connect that word to anything meaningful, so it didn't bother to store it in long-term memory. Instead, adult brains need context, emotional association, and story. Think about it. You remember events in your life not because you repeated them, but because they meant something. You remember your favorite movies because of the emotional impact, not because you drilled the script. This is the key difference. If you want to learn a language after 40, you can't rely on brute force memorization. You need to harness your brain's natural pattern recognition and emotional memory systems. And here's the kicker. Once you understand this, you're already ahead of 90% of adults trying to learn a new language. Most people keep grinding away with techniques that exhaust them because they think more effort equals more progress. But you're about to discover a smarter path, a memory hack that works with your brain, not against it. So don't go anywhere, because in the next part, I'll reveal the fatal mistake most adults make when trying to memorize language and the exact technique that helped me break through the wall and start seeing real progress. Stick around, it's coming up next. All right, let's get into it. The fatal mistake most adults make when trying to learn a new language after 40. Ready? Here it is. They try to memorize words in isolation. They sit down with a list or flashcards and think, if I just repeat these words enough times, they'll stick. But here's the problem. Your adult brain is not built for raw repetition. It's built for connection. Memorizing isolated words is like throwing sand at a wall and hoping some of it sticks. It's exhausting, frustrating, and it rarely works long term. So what's the hack that changes everything? It's shifting from memorization to association. Let me explain. When you associate a new word with a vivid image, a funny story, or a strong emotion, your brain is much more likely to store it in long-term memory. This is called using mnemonics, and it's incredibly powerful for adult learners. For example, let's say you're learning Spanish, and you come across the word caballo, which means horse. Instead of just repeating caballo horse over and over, you create a vivid mental picture. Imagine a cowboy on a big horse shouting caballo loudly, tipping his hat at you. The sillier, more exaggerated, or emotional the image, the stronger the memory. Or take another example, the French word pomme, which means apple. Picture yourself holding an apple in your hand, and suddenly a tiny palm tree grows out of it. Pomme sounds like palm, right? You create absurd, colorful mental scenes because your brain loves weird, emotional, visual connections. It remembers stories, not lists. This approach taps directly into your adult brain's biggest strength, the ability to connect, visualize, and make meaning. And here's what's even better. When you start using these techniques, language learning stops feeling like a grind and starts feeling fun. You laugh at the images you create, you get excited when you recall them, and you build confidence because suddenly you're remembering words without forcing it. But here's the key. You have to apply this consistently. 1 or 2 mnemonics won't change everything. You need to build it into your learning system. And to make this even easier, in the next part, I'm going to tell you about the brain support tool I personally used that amplified my focus, boosted my memory retention, and helped me lock in progress even faster. You don't want to miss this. It's coming up next. Stay with me. So, let's wrap this up. Today, we uncovered why learning a language after 40 feels so frustrating, and why it's not because you're too old or your brain is broken. We learned that your brain simply works differently now. It's not built for raw repetition and memorization like a teenager's brain. It's built for connection, context, and meaning. That's why the fatal mistake most adults make is trying to memorize isolated words or grammar rules with brute force, only to burn out and give up. But once you shift to using memory hacks like vivid images, funny stories, emotional connections, you start tapping into your adult brain's biggest strengths. Imagine no longer dreading your language practice, but actually enjoying it because you're laughing at the absurd images you create, feeling excited when you recall words easily, and watching your progress build day after day. That's what happens when you align your learning strategy with how your brain naturally wants to store and retrieve information. Now, if you really want to amplify your results even further, I want to share something personal. Alongside these techniques, I started using a brain support tool that's designed to enhance focus, boost memory retention, and increase mental clarity. I was skeptical at first, but once I added it to my routine, I noticed I was not only remembering vocabulary faster, but also staying more engaged and motivated. If you're curious and want to check it out for yourself, I've put the link below this video. It's an easy, natural way to give your brain an extra edge as you tackle the challenge of learning a new language after 40. Remember, you're not too old, you're not too late. You just need the right strategy and the right support. So take what you've learned today, apply it to your own language journey, and watch how everything starts to click into place. If you found this helpful, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss future tips on memory, brain health, and personal growth. Thanks for watching, and here's to resetting your memory and unlocking new languages, no matter your age.